We've been talking, Speed's got a little tally board going of the most people who've done the most clinics on NMRAX, and I would have to say Gerry would have to be probably at the top of the list there, because I think you've done one now just about every NMRAX event that we've got along. But today, instead of a layout tour of Australian layouts, Gerry's got a clinic. His local division's been running on teaching beginners how to do some scenery. And I remember doing this clinic, I think probably about maybe 10 years ago when the convention was in Newcastle. And Jeff Knott was actually running it, which is one of our premier modelers we had in Australia, who if you're in the US, there's a couple of his layouts, I think, floating around the US. One's going to be in the new rail museum of model railway by the NMRA over in Sacramento, the California State Rail Museum. And I think that wasn't Muscat Ramble, was it, Gerry? I can't remember the name of that layout now.
Smuggler's Cove.
Oh. Smuggler's Cove, that's right. But I believe Jeff used to run this clinic a lot for beginners. Can you tell us anything else about the origins of this clinic, Gerry?
Many years ago, and then handed it over to Division 7. And one of our members, who's always working, doing something, John up near Newcastle, he got all the preparation, the boxes to carry the material in. And we would turn up at exhibitions on tables, normally set up 3 tables, one for each demonstration, and about half a dozen people in front of each one, all trying to do scenery. We had small, you'll see it in the video, we had the small bases done. They would paint it, put the glue, the brown foam, and then build up from there to their design. We'd say, well, where do you want to put this? And they would do all the necessaries. At one exhibition, we had a young lady came in 5 times over a weekend and did 5 of them because she wanted to show her class at school how to do scenery. So she came in and did it 5 times herself. And this went on, and we did this at quite a few exhibitions over the years. And we even had sessions where we'd have to train our own people how to do the clinic. But it was great fun. In the clinic you're about to see, I'm instructing my lovely lady, Loris, for doing the scenery. She has done scenery clinics at conventions and tree clinics at conventions on her own anyway. But so you'll see she actually leads me in places.
Okay, excellent. Well, I think without further ado, if Brad's got the video all hooked up on the projector, he can hit the go button, and we'll come back after the video.
This video shows a non-modeler or inexperienced modeler how to do scenery. It's done by making a small diorama, which is about 8 inches by 5 inches, and is shown on the black card. They learn the basic skills and make decisions on where they want to put things. This is just a typical section out of a bit of Australian bush. The diorama is normally made on spread out newspaper, as you can see just under the edge, but there's too much colour and brightness for the video, so we're just going to do it on a white card for now. We have a cheat sheet for the person doing the teaching. This gives the order and the steps in which to make the module, and it's done for all the people who actually do the clinic presentation, so that everyone does it the same and people can take over from others on an ongoing basis. So if people are not sat there all day, they can do an hour and then rotate. The other materials required are boxes of the ready materials. This one is Woodland Scenics ground foam, burnt grass in this particular box. The other one is coarse foam, slightly chunky foam. Bit of loose dirt from the garden with bits and pieces of tree, stone, all bits and pieces that are normally found hanging around the bush. Offcuts from making trees and other bits and pieces from dead limbs that have fallen down out of the trees. This one we have short pieces cut to represent cut down trees. These will be used in the demonstration. And these are meat skewers which have been shortened and some of them sharpened to make the uprights for the shed. The shed roof is a piece of thick card, and we printed corrugated iron on it. There's a large A4 sheet which is cut down and it's been marked out so we can do it any time. And then there are spare sheets to lay on the ground for something that's been thrown down. The other important tool is a jig for the uprights on the shed, so that the person can put the shed where they want it. They have a template to put the uprights. The other tool we use is for just making the hole to put the tree trunks in, which is this one. And the final setting liquid is wood glue, 50% wood glue, 50% water. In Australia it is called Aquadeer. Our wetting agent in a squirty bottle is water with a few drops of washing up liquid. You can tell it's got liquid, it goes frothy when you shake it. This helps the glue disperse. To put the glue on we use plastic pipettes, and we pick it up and we put it on like an industrial eyedropper. The other components are a made up shaker and a tube of, in this case, Shelley's liquid nails, which is a high strength construction adhesive, goes off pretty quickly. This is a plastic cup. The top has been replaced with a tea strainer taped in place and uses local dirt just brushed up on a dry day. Before the clinic we prepare the base. Urethane foam. Urethane foam is cut to size and it is then cut through the middle to make two wedges and painted with some dirt coloured paint, any cheap paint from anywhere, and that's the base supplied to the trainee, and of course one brush to put the glue on. Trees are also made beforehand. These are Australian type trees. The lighter colours on it represent the flowering in the gum trees, and quite common at this time of year, which is mid-November. We're going to introduce this modeler to doing a piece of scenery. There's your board, and what you have to do first is put glue on there to take the material.
Is that what we're doing?
That's it. You're going to make one of those.
Very nice.
Okay, first thing's there. There's your white glue, just paint that on.
And what consistency is that?
It's 50% water, 50% aquadeer, which is an Australian wood glue, white wood glue.
Paint the whole board?
Paint the whole board, just get a nice covering. Put plenty on, it'll get absorbed.
How's that?
That's it, that'll do you. Next step, and there's a shaker full of dirt. You shake it on as though you're putting cheese on a pizza.
Or flour on a
Flour on a baking board.
baking board.
Plenty of salt on your chips. Cover it, make sure there's plenty of earth covered. It doesn't have to be even, just as long as it's all covered. Down the bottom end a bit. Across that top. Okay.
How's
That's
that?
it. Oh, the next thing now, we're going to be putting a shed on here. Do you want to turn it around? Going to put a shed on here, and that's the template for the shed, so you get an idea of how much space. You put that where you want to put it.
And
Normally at the thick end of the wedge, so it has a little bit more surface. You're going to put it in like,
there, so
yeah.
the sooner
So
goes
now you
in.
know how much area you're going to cover. That's it. First of all, you sprinkle on your fine grass, 3 pinches of the grass, 3 liberal pinches. This particular colour is burnt grass, typical of an Australian summer grass. If you're in cooler places, you can use a darker green.
Yes.
Then you want 3 or 4 pinches of
3. 3 of this. I think I took more than fish.
okay, now 3 pinches of the loose
That one?
groundy stuff, which is all the bits and pieces of decayed trees that have fallen down, stones that have been uncovered by the weather and baked in place. And then a few bits of dead tree and branches that have fallen down.
Oops. That's where I put the tree.
Okay.
Oops.
The next bit, you can put tree trunks in. Where do you want your tree trunks?
One in there. One there.
There's a hole for you, no? Screw your tree into the hole.
Screw it in.
Yeah, just give it a twist in. That's it. Next one.
In there. And one in there. Get the right size. Oops.
Okay, now use the template. Put the template where you want it. And we give you 4 uprights. You push them in through the holes.
Okay. sure they're even.
Alright. They've been sharpened to make it easier.
So, say to me, don't push it right through. Okay, oops.
And they're all upright, all the same height.
I think so.
You can take the jig off now.
With water.
Spray it with wet water. It's water with a little bit of washing up liquid. Normally I do this away from the camera, but you make everything nice and wet. Okay. And what you have to do now is fill up the industrial eyedropper and put the
Cover the whole board.
cover all the bits that you've added to the board.
See?
Grass, the bits, twigs, the stones.
And what does this do?
When it dries, it will glue everything to the board. It will be clear. So it's not going to show, it will dry perfectly clear and it will hold everything onto the board.
So you don't need any other glue?
No, that's it.
And it'll hold the rocks down too?
Yes, it'll hold rocks down.
How's that if I covered it all?
A little bit there, a little bit there. That should be it. Okay, the next thing is we add the roof. And there's your roof. And I shall put a bit of glue on the top for you. This is an industrial type glue. Will dry reasonably quickly and will be quite firm when it's finished.
Put that on now?
Yeah, put it on. And touch the four corners just to make sure it sits on the corners.
Oops.
That's it. And there's a couple of blank pieces you can just put on the ground. You can put a bit of glue on the back of them if you like.
No, the white glue should hold them, I think.
Okay, if you're happy with that.
Can I have another one?
You may.
I might need a bit of glue under that one, I think. Thank you.
Now, the tree. If you like to select a tree, whichever tree you like. Okay. You take that one, and before you can put it in the hole.
Is there a toothpick there?
No. Make a hole where you want it.
It's too big. Give me one. There's only got the skinny butt on it.
Plant your tree.
Any more?
That's it.
Ah.
No, you're all finished. When that dries, it will look something like this. You can add a little bit more to it at a later date if you wish, but that's your basic scenery, and you can apply that to the whole of the layout.
I'm very pleased with that.
Yes, it looks very good.
Things you can send somebody up who's not here.
Oh, here comes Gerry. So,
Server was playing up. Sorry.
oh, that's all right. He's coming up from the basement.
There we go.
So we're just having a little chat there about the clinic and how you guys have done this at Division 7 and probably at the Sydney train show would be one of the biggest ones that you've run this at. About how many people do you think at a train show weekend have been making these little dioramas?
On a 2-day weekend, about 190. 3-day weekend, about 350.
Okay, so you're averaging about 100 a day have been made by beginners and members of the general public at train shows. So that's 300 trees, 300 blocks. And I noticed that Loris made the trees, and she does an excellent job of those. They look spectacular. So, but yes, that certainly is a lot of resources. But the feedback that you get from the clinic is obviously well worth it.
You made a comment at the beginning that Jeff Knott, one of his layouts is going to be in the museum in California. That's called Smuggler's Cove. The next Australian tour that I do includes that particular layout before it was shipped. So you can see the work that he does is brilliant.
It is. We've talked a lot about Jeff's work and his legacy in the hobby, but I guess the narrow gauge community will probably be more aware of him as he was prolific in that genre. But anyway, let's have a little look at what questions we got here. There was a lot of comments on how we should be doing these clinics to the general public, and as you said there, it's very successful. So to do those numbers of 3 a day, how many tables did you have set up at, say, the Sydney train show?
We started with 3 tables, but then four tables, and we changed the people doing the demo or giving the clinic. They would change about every hour because it's heavy, full-on thinking and talking to people and explaining things while you're doing it. So they would only do an hour at a time. So we have a couple of spare crews around, and it was handy.
Excellent. And is
Some
there
of
any
the
other
members and some of their wives helped out? There were a number of the ladies doing the clinics as well, including Loris, my missus. And they enjoyed doing it, but it was hard work at the time. But yes.
So are there any other major train shows where you've presented this clinic with Division 7?
Okay, we've done the Newcastle. We've done the AMRA one in Sydney, the big one in Sydney, the Rose Hill one in Sydney we did a couple of times. They were big, they're the big conventions, and the biggest around, and a couple of smaller places, and they were the exhibitions and conventions every year. So this went on for, I think, about 8 years, all that.
Okay, there's a comment here from Dan that he's excited watching this clinic you put together, but he's sad that you don't have a layout tour this time. So your layout tours are getting known around NMRA's world, especially I think in the US, because it's something completely different. Laurie's in there. Say good day to Laurie, and he says, Loris and Gerry, nice teamwork. So I think that was at the point where Loris was selecting her own spike to put the tree in.
Talking about Laurie McLean, his layout is on the next video layout tour. His sound, his animation. So there you go.
Well, I must say, first I must apologise to Laurie because I should have got back to him by now. But he's going to be coming down here within the next couple of weeks, and we're going to be doing some video of his animations close up. And I've got a few ideas, and as you see now, I've got a green screen. We're going to put a little video together where I'm going to try and get Laurie actually in his animations. So we'll see how that goes. He doesn't know that yet. I'm waiting for him to get down here, and we'll capture him in front of the camera. Let's have a little look through here. We're talking about... there's a question here from Andy asking you, did you notice any rise in membership from performing these clinics at shows? Was it was doing something like this something that brought people to the NMRA?
Maybe one or two each time, but it was a case of planting the seed of what you can do for the younger people. Because there were a lot of younger people, as you saw towards the end, who were getting involved, and they remembered it. There were a number of school clubs with layouts, and the people from these, when we would come against them or come up near them in exhibitions, we would teach them, and they'd go back and forth, and they'd be talking in groups about how they can improve their layout, learning some of these techniques. So it's a longer term than an immediate membership thing, but yeah, it worked well.
Okay, got a question coming here from, well, Laurie's dropped in and he said, I know now, Marty, so I've given away my surprise for when I was going to get him down here. But anyway, there's another one here from Rail Scenes, and it says, does Gerry model US Railroad on his layout? So I guess being as we've got the layout directly behind us, you can give us a bit of a chat on your layout, an unofficial layout tour. Oop, what's he done now? We got a picture of the panel. Oh.
I've lost the camera.
Oh dear, we've lost camera here, so bear with us a moment, folks, and hopefully Gerry will get his camera plugged back in and working, and we can have a quick look at his layout. So any more questions, post them in the chat, and we can get them to Laurie. We can get them to Gerry. I'm reading Laurie's post talking about Gerry. I should do one thing at one time. I'm not known for multitasking. I'm not really known for turning the mute button on and off correctly, so.
At least you have Gmail.
At least I got Gmail, and yeah, that is a sore point that's obviously going to be brought up for a long time.
Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you, Gerry. We can hear you, but we can't. All we've got is a blurred video. We don't see anything.
Yeah, that was when I was picking up to look at the layout, but unfortunately, that part of the camera doesn't want to work. You will ask these funny questions in the middle of things, wouldn't you? For those watching, I can joke quite well with this gentleman because we're fellow Welshmen. Although we're both in Australia, we are fellow Welshmen.
Came from the same part of the valleys, just about. Oh.
I'm coming up with a new camera, we hope.
Okay, with a bit of luck, we should have another camera up and running. Oh, here we go. Yes, we've got video back again.
Ah.
And now he's turned his video
off. It went
off.
back to the original. What happened to the video?
you've got to hit that apply button when you select the different
Yeah.
camera.
But it came back with the original camera, I think.
And here, this is the joys of doing live television or live streaming.
When I'm not expecting to.
Is when things don't go right, they don't go right, and
It says USB device not connected.
well,
They're
Andy-
both plugged in.
well, Andy seems to think we've got really funny Welsh accents, though. Well, I'd say Gerry has a better accent than I do. My accent only comes out when I talk to my parents.
You spend half your time in America anyway, so.
And yes, I'm married to an American, and I grew up in South Africa, so my accent is a hodgepodge of 1,000 different things. Yes, Andy, it's Murphy's Law. When you try to do something different, there we go. The camera's up. We've got Gerry's layout there. And it's dropped out again.
Bad connection probably on the computer. You can always blame computers.
Yes, it's always the technology, but maybe you can just give us a description of your layout.
Okay, it's about 20 feet by 24 feet. I modeled Great Northern, Northwest Montana, and about 1960. I have steam, which I prefer, and a few of the noisy boxes called diesels. At the moment, most of my steam logos are stuck in the roundhouse because our operating session yesterday, I was running diesels. For the first time, we've had a full session. But why I can't get my camera to work up there, I have no idea. We run once a month. We have an operating session, and 6 people and myself. We use car cards and waybills. And sometime in the next month, we're doing a video on a short part of the layout, but how to use waybills, car cards. That'll be going out to people in our division. And I think it's Lynn Westcott did the original system, and that's the system I use now without any changes. So, yeah, it's been around a while. We've been using it for a while, longer than I would really admit. But
I can attest to operating on Gerry's layout. It's he uses the TCS WOW decoders, and they're all set to a prototype mode. So you actually have to use the braking function in the DCC to stop the trains. And it's always interesting at a obsession when you've got a few newbies there, because all you hear being yelled out is F7, F7, and that's the brake. So because these people have got runaway trains.
Bit of the roundhouse. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Control panel for the yard. I'm set up for next year when I'm a feeble old man, and I can sit on a tall chair, which is that one, and sit down, operate the yard, operate the full layout. All the mainline turnouts run through accessory decoders. So yeah, I can have fun. I like scratch building and doing modifications. I don't get much time for it these days, but that's what I like doing. And
what's the DCC system of choice that you use?
Easy DCC.
Yep.
They're the ones that have throttles, not mobile command stations.
Right. Yep. And I notice you got switches around there. Can most of your points all automated, or are they hand thrown?
This end of the layout, they're all automated. You just press a button there to change the turnout, and the light will change, as that one did. Down at 2 of the towns which get switched, they're slide switches near the edge of the layout, so people don't have to reach over, and they can be. One of the towns plan to put in. I've got them. I've got the octopus to drive the servos, That's due to be done in Christmas 2017. So I'm running a bit behind.
I know you're a prolific installer of DCC and sound systems into people's locos. Obviously, you use your layout as a test bed to run those and fine tune them.
Yep.
About how many locos do you think are actually on the layout?
At any one time, about 45. That's
About
diesels and steam, and the
Good.
narrow gauge.
That's right. So it's a well-populated roundhouse that you have there.
There's a narrow gauge loco there and a control panel for a section there. So that's a HON 2.5.
We had a question came in here from someone in Texas that is asking, why did you pick Northwest Montana? What was your reasonings behind that and modelling the Great Northern?
Well, going back about 40 years, I did Great Northern in N scale because I liked the colour. And then I went narrow gauge for 10, 15 years, HON 2.5. And had an opportunity to visit the US and saw some Great Northern layouts, and I went to a Great Northern convention. And that really fixed me on that. I like steam, may not strictly be all Great Northern prototypes. The train on the the loco on the turntable is actually a Chinese SY class, painted and decorated Great Northern with a Vanderbilt tender. And they've got one of these up in Connecticut, I believe, at one of the tourist railways. But I just like the Great Northern. I didn't want to fall into the trap of getting ditches or the Santa Fe modelers or some of the Union Pacific modelers. But there's plenty of them around. I just wanted to be a bit different, which is me anyway.
I notice there's another comment in here. Does Montana look like Australia? As I've never really been to Montana, I couldn't tell you. But Gerry might be able to shed some light on that.
Well, you go over the mountains past Isaac Walton Hotel, out onto the flat bits, and from there for the next 300 miles, it's very much like parts of Australia, dead flat, with the occasional bit of a hump in the middle. But going over the hill near Essex and the Isaac Walton, that is typical of some areas within Australia, because our region is the biggest region in the NMRA. Geographically, we are just a bit bigger than the United States, and that's our region. So, there's a lot of variety in there. And if you look at the beginning of the video tours that I put up, you'll see some wide open spaces, some shoreline, and I think the next one's coming up, all assorted coloured trees as you would get in Maine. So, it was... it's similar, a long way to go to get anywhere.
Yeah.
But, as you know, you're 1,000 kilometers north of me, so.
That's right, and we just say that we're down the road from each other.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
It's just the road's very long. That's all.
And the people that came yesterday for an operating session, a couple of those had done an hour's drive, 60 kilometers. 70 kilometers. I've driven 100 kilometers for an operating session without any second thoughts.
Okay, well, I'm just having a little look through here at if we got any more questions in the chat. No, I think we covered most of those. Okay. And that chap from Texas has put another comment in about the flickering lights in the background.
They don't flicker to me, and when I look at them, but you see them on the camera, that's the frequency of the camera and the lights, which are 50 cycles converted to DC. American stuff, which is the basis of most of this web stuff. This is a 60 frames per second camera. So yes, you will get a little bit of flicker on some, not all.
Not a problem. Well, thanks a million for the clinic on scenery. I think that sparked a fair bit of interest, and I told everybody that you have a link on the NMRA Australian website with a video and how to set up the clinic and how to run it at shows and the likes. So hopefully a few other regions around the world might pick that up and start making some Australian scenery. Yes, so thank you very much, Gerry, and we look forward to your layout tour on the next episode. We've got a bit out of it.